Hello students, today we will see what are the various types of noise in the communication channel. Okay, in the very first class we had seen the block diagram of a communication system, in which we had seen that the main information signal is transmitted through a module called as transmitter. Then it is passed on through some channel. The channel might be wired channel or a wired medium or a wireless medium. Okay, then it gets received at the receiver side. Some processing is done over it, that is basically modulation and demodulation processes that we had seen. Okay, and then it is received at the receiver end. But basically what we want to know is that at the channel we had seen that there is some particular signal, some particular noise that is getting affected, that is affecting the signal. Okay, so basically the information bearing baseband signal, that is the message signal, at the input of the receiver side, it's going to be distorted. Okay, and it might not be just because of noise. There are many other effects which are happening over there in the channel. Okay, so basically the whatever is received at the input of the receiver, it's going to be different from what is going to be transmitted. Okay, this happens due to basically three different things. First thing, there is some attenuation in the channel, so the signal is getting weakened in the channel. Second thing, there are some non-linearities in the channel. Okay, so the signal is supposed to be linear. Okay, all right, but there in the channel there are some non-linearities, so because of that there might be some problems, there might be some issues. And the third and the most important thing is the noise, that is the unpredictable signal component. Okay, that is unpredictable as well as unwanted signal component. It's called noise and gets superimposed on the desired information bearing signal or the message signal. So there are two ways in which this noise can affect the main signal or the message signal. Okay, sometimes it can get added to the message signal. Okay, so when this addition happens, it is called as additive noise. Okay, or sometimes the noise can get multiplied with the message signal. So if the noise multiplies the information bearing signal or the message signal, it is called as fading effect. Okay, now this we cannot design a system which can completely eliminate this noise, but what we can do is its effect we can reduce. Okay, so its effect can be reduced by proper design of communication systems. So whenever we design communication systems, we have the aim of reducing the effect of noise by knowing that we cannot completely eliminate all sorts of noise. Okay, now we will see what are the different types of noise that are there. Okay, the noise that gets superimposed on the desired message signal, it can originate either external to the source. Okay, external to the channel. All right, in that case it is called as external noise, or it can get generated within the source. In that case we call it as the internal noise. Okay, so there are different types of external noise. Okay, we can have atmospheric noise, that is industrial noise and all that, all sorts of noise, or we can have extraterrestrial noise. Some examples are solar rays or solar noise, cosmic rays, cosmic noise, or some man-made noise which are there. So all these are the noise which are originating outside of the channel, that is outside of the source. Okay, so these are called as external noise. For our syllabus we will be concentrating more on the internal noise, that is the noise which is getting generated within the source or within the channel. Okay, so there are three types of noise and we will go in detail of all these three types. Okay, so the first one is short noise, the second is thermal noise, and the third is white noise. So we will be going in detail for these noises. Okay, so the first thing is short noise. It appears in active devices and happens due to random behavior of charge carriers, that is because of the electrons or holes. Okay, in semiconductor devices it's basically generated due to random diffusion of electrons, or it can happen due to random recombination of electrons and holes. But the main thing over here is we are applying some particular voltage, that is potential difference is applied. Okay, in those particular cases wherever potential difference is applied, after that there might be random diffusion of the electrons or random recombination of electrons. Okay, now whenever we apply potential difference, obviously we say that the current is flowing. Okay, so basically when we say that we are applying some particular thing, let's say one electron is moving from cathode to anode, we say that one particular unit of current is getting generated. Okay, so basically this current which is happening, okay, current in the electronic devices, it's flowing in form of discrete pulses every time a charge carrier, that is electron, moves from one point to another. Okay, so every time one electron is getting is moving from one point to another, it's basically from cathode to anode, we say that some current is flowing. Okay, so basically till now our concept was that the current is continuous, but basically what is happening is each time a carrier is moving, it might happen due to any random behavior, that is random diffusion or random recombination, but whenever an electron is moving from cathode to anode, we say that one sort of current is getting formed, so it is like one shot. Okay, so it's forming a discrete pulse. Alright, so this, though the current appears to be continuous, it's basically a discrete phenomenon. Every time a charge, an electron is moving from cathode to anode, it's basically like one sort of current pulse is discretely flowing. So it's like one shot. Alright, so the nature of these current variations with respect to time, okay, we have taken an example of a vacuum tube diode over here, not a semiconductor diode. Okay, so in a vacuum tube diode, we have seen that the nature of current variation with respect to time is shown, and whenever we usually say that some particular current capital I is flowing in that particular diode. Okay, but this capital I is nothing but its mean value. Okay, and actually current variations every time the current is flowing in terms of discrete pulses, as you can see over there. Okay, so the current is fluctuating over some mean value I, and whenever we usually say that some current I is flowing through the diode. Okay, so we in that case we are referring to this capital I, that is mean value. Okay, but actually what is happening is there are some current variations every time electron is flowing. Okay, so what is happening is that particular current, the fluctuating value of that current is called as the short noise, and we will denote it as capital I SN, SN for short noise, and it's a variation with respect to time, so it's a function of time. So we call that short noise as capital ISN of t, whereas I is a mean value. Okay, it's one particular constant value. Alright, so now the total current which is flowing in a vacuum diode circuit is total I of t. Okay, current which is flowing through the circuit, we call it as small I of t, is equal to capital I plus ISN of t, that is short noise. Alright, now the mean square value, usually for the for all these noises, for modeling of the noises, we use the mean square value. Okay, so mean square value of randomly fluctuating component of this current is given by expectation of, that is E of, we know that mean square value is E of x square. Okay, in the random variables we have seen E of x square is the mean square value. So similarly over here, E of ISN square is going to be the mean square value of the short noise. Okay, and it is given by this particular equation 2, that is it's equal to 2qi into Bn, where q is the charge on an electron, which is given by 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs, and Bn is the bandwidth of the measuring instrument, and I is the mean square value of the mean value of the current. Okay, now very important characteristic of short noise is that it is Gaussian distributed, and its mean is with zero mean. Okay, so it follows Gaussian distribution and can be seen from the fact that there are many electrons, that is number of electrons contributing to the short noise is very large. Okay, so it has got a very large sample size. Alright, so we can apply the central limit theorem over here. Okay, so whenever the sample size is very large, then in any case, whatever sort of process it is, it will follow Gaussian distribution. That is what is the central limit theorem. So, alright, then in case this was the earlier case was in terms of the vacuum tube diode. Okay, in case of the semiconductor diode, that is the diode that we are most used to, okay, the mean value of I is given by the diode equation. Okay, this equation we are very familiar with, that is I is equal to Is into e raised to qv by kt minus Is, where Is is nothing but the saturation current, V is the voltage which is applied to the diode, okay, K is the Boltzmann constant, and capital T is the absolute temperature in degree Kelvin. Okay, so in this particular case, in case of semiconductor diode, the short noise current mean square value is given by E of ISN square is given by 2Q into bracket I plus 2is. Here we need to take care of the saturation current. Okay, so instead of just 2qIBN, we have, in this particular case, we have 2q into I plus 2is into Bn. Okay, so this was about the short noise. Next we have thermal noise. As the name suggests, thermal means anything related to temperature. Okay, so in this particular case, in case of short noise, there was potential difference, meaning we were applying some particular voltage. Okay, over here we are not applying any external voltage. Okay, a thermal noise gets generated just because of the temperature variations. Okay, we are not applying any voltage over here, so there is no potential difference. Alright, so basically thermal noise is related to temperature variations. Alright, and it is generated due to random movement of electrons inside the volume of conductors or resistors. Okay, even in the absence of electric field or potential difference. So basically here there is absence of potential difference or the electric field. Alright, now these electrons and positive ions are basically uniformly distributed. Okay, for the, if we take the case of the resistor, or we can take inverse of it, that is a conductor. Okay, so usually we say that the resistor is electrically neutral. Okay, we do not have a positive and negative terminal for the resistor. Alright, because the positive and negative ions are uniformly distributed inside the volume of this resistor. Alright, so every time each free electron inside a resistor and conductor is in motion, okay, due to its thermal energy, because of the temperature variations, they are slowly moving. Alright, now this path of this individual electrons is random and it is zigzag, and collisions can happen with the lattice structure. Since they are moving, okay, they are prone to collisions due to temperature variations. Alright, now because of these random movement of electrons, okay, there will be random fluctuations of current. So every time an electron will go from cathode to anode, obviously there will be some random fluctuations. We will have some particular current value and have some voltage around the zero potential. Now that current value will not be very large. Okay, it's going to be very small variations, small fluctuation. There will be random fluctuations of current, so these values are going to be small. Okay, now this random voltage that appears between the resistor terminals, okay, usually we say that it is electrically neutral, so there should not be any voltage fluctuations or voltage that appears between the resistor terminals. But because of this thermal noise, there is a very small random voltage that is appearing between the resistor terminals. It is unpredictable. Okay, and this particular value is called as thermal noise or Johnson noise. Okay, so this thermal noise across a resistor basically increases with temperature. If temperature is increased, even more electrons are free to flow. There will be more collisions. Okay, and there will be more current which will be flowing, or more noise. Okay, and it also depends on the value of the resistor. Higher the value of the resistor, thermal noise will again increase. Okay, in case of perfect resistor or perfect conductor, thermal noise is 0. Okay, it's very difficult to fabricate though. Then the mean square value of this thermal voltage called as Vn of t. Okay, in terms of voltage, if we are defining it. Okay, so in terms of voltage, Vn of t appearing across the terminals of resistor of value capital R at temperature capital T and bandwidth of B hertz, we denote it as expectation of Vn square. Okay, or Vn square and then bar over it of t, and it is given by expectation of Vn square is equal to 4kTB into R. Okay, this is in terms of volt square because it's mean square value, so unit is volt square. K is Boltzmann constant, T is the absolute temperature. Okay, R is the value of the resistor, B is the bandwidth. Alright, so this is in terms of voltage. Alright, now if we take a noisy resistor, okay, noisy resistor R, it can be represented by a noiseless resistor in series with the thermal noise voltage source. Okay, so noisy resistor R, usually we can call it, use the Thevenin's equivalent circuit for it. Okay, so what we will be having is some particular voltage source that is basically nothing but the thermal noise voltage. Okay, in series with the R, which is noiseless, completely noiseless value of R, and together it will denote a noisy resistor R. Okay, so we can see the Thevenin's equivalent circuit there, Vn square of t, that is the voltage, in series with R, which is noiseless value of R. Okay, now since we have Thevenin's equivalent, we can put it into Norton's equivalent circuit. So in terms of Norton's equivalent circuit, we will have iron square, okay, thermal current source, basically a thermal current noise part, okay, in parallel with that resistor. All right, so this is the Norton's equivalent circuit for it. Now the mean square value of this thermal noise current In of T through the value of through the resistor of R at temperature T and bandwidth of B is denoted by E of In square. So in terms of current, expectation of In square is given by voltage square divided by R square. Okay, so it is basically given by 4kTB, okay, divided by R instead of into R, that is into R divided by R square. So we will be having it as expectation of In square in terms of current is 4kTB divided by R, and this will be in terms of ampere square. Okay, now since the number of electrons in this resistor is very large and the random motion is statistically independent of each other, okay, we can again apply the central limit theorem, and it will indicate that the thermal noise is also Gaussian distributed with zero mean. All right, now this voltage or current power spectral density is constant and it is independent of this frequency. All right, we will see how that happens, how it is independent of frequency. And basically power spectral density is nothing but the measure of signals power content with respect to frequency. X-axis is frequency and y-axis is the power content in the signal. Okay, so that is power spectral density. In short, we call it as a PSD. All right, so in this particular case, that PSD is going to be constant. We will see how it is independent of frequency. We will have a small derivation to do. Okay, now the maximum possible power that can be delivered to a load from any noise source is called as the available noise power. Okay, so the maximum average noise power which is delivered to the load, which is called as available noise power, is given by this particular equation over here. We call it as PA. Okay, we can apply maximum noise power transfer theorem, that is equal to total P max, we used to call it as VTH square divided by 4 times RTH, where VTH is the Thevenin's voltage, equivalent voltage, and RTH is the Thevenin's equivalent resistance. We can apply the same thing over here. So PA, that is maximum average noise power, is going to be given by VRMS square divided by R. Okay, basically it is nothing but VTH divided by 4 times RTH. Okay, so we can use that VRMS as a root of that Vn square divided by 2. So it's going to be nothing but, if the whole square is going to be Vn square divided by 4 into 1 by R. So basically it is nothing but that VTH square divided by 4R. Okay, so Vn square value we substitute it as 4kT RB, okay, divide by 4 into 1 by R. So R gets cancelled, 4 gets cancelled, and you have PA as equal to KT into B. Now here we can see that it is independent of the value of the resistor, and also it is independent of the value of the frequency, so it is constant. Okay, so PA is equal to K into T into B. It is just dependent on the total noise power which is there. Okay, it is just dependent on the temperature and the bandwidth. Okay, it is independent, the total noise power is independent of the value of the resistor as well as the frequency. Okay, then the third kind of noise which we are using, which can happen, is white noise. Okay, so white noise is nothing but it's a random process whose PSD, that is power spectral density, is constant and independent of frequency. Okay, basically it's called as white noise. Now here all the frequency components in white noise, they are contributing equally to the noise power. Okay, usually we have some particular frequencies affected lesser by noise, some frequencies affected more by noise, but in case of a white noise, all the frequency components are contributing equally to that noise power, so it is spread throughout, it is a constant. Okay, and that constant value we call it as some n naught by 2. Okay, that is PSD of white noise with a sample function which is denoted by small w of t. Okay, it's given by SWFF. SWFF stands for that power spectral density. It is equal to n naught by 2. N naught by 2 is the value that is there. Okay, it is that constant value. Okay, so its units are watts per hertz. So as we can see, for all frequencies its value is constant, power spectral density is constant. Okay, then in a bandwidth of b hertz, the total available noise power due to white noise is equal to P is equal to n naught into b. Okay, so n naught being the value and b being the bandwidth. So b is total power is equal to n naught into b, and usually we have noise power of a thermal noise source as Pa is equal to Kt into b. So we can compare the two equations. Okay, so we get n naught is equal to Kt, that is n naught by 2. Since we are putting it as a constant as n naught by 2, we write that n naught by 2 as Kt by 2. Okay, so we can write that value as W of f is as n naught by 2, or we can write it as Kt by 2. Okay, so basically white noise is a value where it is constant, PSD is constant, power spectral density is constant, and all frequencies contribute equally to the noise power. Okay, now this power spectral density and autocorrelation functions, they are Fourier transform pairs. Okay, now if we denote that autocorrelation function of white noise as Rw of tau, okay, and Sw of tau is the Sw of f is the power spectral density. Okay, autocorrelation we take in terms of time, and power spectral density in terms of the frequency. Okay, now in terms of frequency, it was a constant as we have seen. So a constant value in terms of time domain, it's going to be one particular impulse function or a delta function. This we have already seen. Okay, but again we will do that small simple derivation. Okay, so we'll take the Fourier transform of Rw of tau. Okay, Rw of tau Fourier transform, inverse Fourier transform basically we are writing. So inverse Fourier transform to get the value of autocorrelation function, that is Rw of tau is equal to integral minus infinity to infinity Sw of f, which is nothing but PSD or power spectral density, e raised to positive jt 2 pi f into tau df. Okay, now that value of Sw of f is denoted, okay, Sw of f is a constant value and it's going to be n naught by 2. Okay, so this is going to be nothing but its value is going to, it's defined at only value at 0. Okay, so that particular value is going to be Rw of tau is going to be n naught by 2 into delta of tau. So autocorrelation function of white noise is going to be a delta function which can occur only at tau is equal to 0, and its strength is going to be n naught by 2. Okay, so it's going to be just a delta function. Since its value is a constant in frequency domain, the signal is going to be a delta function or an impulse in the time domain. Okay, so values are going to be same. The constant value was n naught by 2 here also, and here in this particular case is also the strength is going to be n naught by 2. Okay, now we'll see the significance of this. Now since this autocorrelation function Rw of tau is 0, for any tau value which is except 0, all the values, its value is 0. That is Rw of tau, that is autocorrelation is 0. Okay, wherever elsewhere, that is when it is not 0, the value of autocorrelation function is 0. This indicates that any two samples of white noise process which is separated by any value of tau which is not 0, they are uncorrelated, they are not similar at all. Okay, so only for tau is equal to 0 they are correlated, they will have some particular value. Okay, the similarity will have some particular value. Wherever it is separated by some particular value of tau, where tau is not 0, any value of tau which is not 0, they are going to be uncorrelated, so they are not going to be similar. Okay, so if this white noise process W of t is also Gaussian process, okay, then the two samples that are uncorrelated will also be independent processes. Okay, now theoretically this white noise, okay, it's going to have infinite average power, since the power spectral density itself extends from f is equal to minus infinity to f is equal to positive infinity, that is it extends basically infinitely. Okay, now since in terms of frequency axis it extends infinitely, okay, that infinite x-axis multiplied by the average power, which is that is n naught by 2, we will have infinite average power. But basically such kind of PSDs we cannot have practically. Okay, so they do not exist physically. Alright, so what we say as white noise, basically practically white noise is as long as the bandwidth of that noise process at the input of the system is much greater than bandwidth of the system itself. Okay, that is bandwidth of whatever noise that is happening if that bandwidth of noise is much greater than bandwidth of the system that we are designing, and its power spectral density is flat. Okay, it should be flat over the passband of the system, then that noise process we call it as white noise. Because actual white noise, which is infinite average power, that is PST extends from infinite minus infinity to positive infinity, which we cannot have. Okay, so in reality the noise process is called as white noise if it satisfies this condition, that is bandwidth of that noise process at the input of the system is large.